It started as a story, but a mysterious little girl changed everything. Now, a dragon has come to East Texas and they need a hero. An old man rises to a glory he never thought he'd know again, and all because he was coerced into telling little kids a story. A young boy, a princess, a talking sword, and an evil dragon captivate snaggletooth munchkins. Then the old man starts to feel it. Something has risen from his past, and it's coming for him and the people he loves. You'll love this first book because of the twists, turns, and even the cliffhanger ending. It will start you on a path that leads to happiness with frequent stops for humor. You won't be able to put it down. If you enjoy Christian fantasy, this book is for you. The Princess Who Forgot She Was Beautiful is the first book in the Harry Ferguson Chronicles, of which I believe there are 3 out, and there should be 5? Not 5 more, but like 5. Anyway, there are 2 more in the works, I think, if I'm understanding correctly. So this first book is basically Hank is going to tell stories to some kids at a library, and what happens is these stories are more real than the kids think. And one of the little girls starts to realize this and remember things that haven't happened to her. So past and future kind of come together in the midst of this fantasy novel that is being kind of brought to reality. And it's very interesting. So there's a lot of story within a story going on here. You have the old man telling the story to the kids, and the story is extremely important because it actually happened. So what's actually going on is that this is the continuation of the story that's being told. So the more you learn about the story that's being told, the more you learn about the outside world and what's actually going on. And I like that sort of, you have to learn 2 timelines at once. It's kind of fun. It's not hugely complicated like you would get with some of the more intricate time travel stories, but this isn't actually a proper time travel story. It's a fantasy story about a hero rescuing a princess from an evil dragon. Whole different situation there. We've got a magical talking sword, we've got some pretty cool armor, we've got some really fun interactions in the present day situation. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Now, I think the main character deserves some extra discussion. So you learn of him first as this old man. He's kind of, I think he's in his 70s, things are moving slower for him than before. He's telling the story because his daughter, who works at a library, asked him to do so, and he just kind of wants to tell his story and more or less be left in peace. That doesn't happen because that's not this kind of story. What happens is that he remembers things that have already happened to him. He becomes more connected with this young hero who he is, and it melds together in a way. And it's almost like you've got 2 different main characters with very similar personality traits that become one main character later on. And I don't know how else to describe this. It's not properly like dissociative identity. It's just more 2 people who are very similar and then they merge together. It's actually really cool to read. I think it's very interesting. And I think it works well for this story because we have the story within a story situation going on. I mean, you have to, a story within a story done well is a thing to behold, and this one was done pretty darn well. Now, I will say that the princess who comes back and remembers things, I don't know if that one worked quite as well because you've got an adult and a young child sort of in separate stories and situations and points in their lives, and I think the blending there could have been a little bit smoother, but it was actually done fairly well, considering that there's a certain age gap that you have to take into account. But still, okay, as far as my main critique for this story is the narration style. Having a story within a story requires a certain amount of narration style. We have the old man who is narrating the story. He's telling the story as if you were talking to a bunch of children. It is written like that. It's very precisely written like that. But when we switch out of that narration story and move into the events are happening in the real world / modern times story, it takes a minute for the language to catch up, and I feel like that doesn't really do this dichotomy, this story within a story, justice, because you feel like everything is too much the same in terms of the language at first. Once you get past that transition, then it works well, but then you get back into the story and it takes a bit to get back out of it. I think if the language was done a little bit more distinctly, if there was a bit more, I don't know how to describe it, a bit more formality in the story and lack of precision in the not story, I think that would have worked really well with this. And there's a certain amount of that, but it takes the transition a little bit to get into that. And I think that is the one downfall of this novel, is that the language just doesn't transition quite so cleanly from the different sections, which make it a little bit harder to separate. And that is rather important for understanding the whole purpose of this novel, because if you don't understand the separation and then how it unseparates, that is so not a word, then there's a little bit of a problem there. But on the whole, I'd say this was it was a fun book to read. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Yeah, I did. I liked it. It was very entertaining. It's something I haven't seen before in this particular genre. I've seen it in other genres, mostly literary fiction, but that's entirely separate. Completely besides the point, and I digress. Anyways, if you're interested in this book, you can find it and the author in the description box below. I mean, you can't actually find them, but the links are all there. You can find my links there too, if you're interested. Feel free to talk to me about books, about anything. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you today. Have a great day. Enjoy reading, and I hope to see you next time.